Tim Priester joined by Tom Loy today on the early signing day for Notre Dame. 21 players signed for the Irish. Brian Kelly made it clear today that there is room for a couple more, whether that's in the short term or comes a little bit later in the process in February. But Tom, thanks for joining us here today, and just your overall thoughts on this class and maybe some of the things that Coach Kelly and Coach Polian talked about.
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of this class, top to bottom. I mean, when we rank the class top to bottom, it's difficult because there's so many good players, so it's hard to call somebody last. But Kyle Hamilton's an absolute stud. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. He's come so far. Wasn't all that impressed when I saw him in January at the Underclassmen Combine, but he was phenomenal at the opening and then was terrific this year. He's a guy that'll play right away. So it's easy to call him a 5-star. He's right on the cusp, and I expect him at the All-American Bowl to get that 5th star. When you look at the offense and defensive line, and I think when you look at the defensive line, I think there's still another piece that's going to end up being at Notre Dame in Isaiah Foskey, kid out of California, 4-star player, another All-American. But when you look what they have so far, Jacob Lacey, he's going to enter the 2 deep right away. Mike Elston absolutely loves that guy. A guy that I was a little on the fence about was Howard Cross, but he was really good as a senior, and that's another guy that they are extremely high on inside the Goog. Andrew Kristofic is when I talk to a lot of coaches across the country throughout the year, that's one guy that they always say to me, is he solid? Is he think he's going to flip? Or is there any wiggle room? Because everybody thinks that guy's a future first-round pick. It's pretty amazing because he was just okay when I saw him at Phil Drakovic's game last year. But, man, I mean, great senior year. And to hear these coaches I trust their evaluations for offensive linemen rather than my own. But to hear them talk about him, call him a first-round pick down the road, it's awesome. But the one guy that I'm probably most excited about is one of their latest additions was Maris Leofau out of Hawaii. I think he's a guy that when he gets here, probably a year in the system, he's a guy that's going to surprise a lot of people. Hardworking. It's kind of like you look at Alohi Gilman and what he brings to the table, and there's no reason to not think that he's going to bring that type of energy, enthusiasm. His film's awesome. He's just a violent player, a great kid off the field. So he's probably one of the ones that I'm most excited about in this class.
Brian Kelly mentioned offensive and defensive line is really the foundation of this class, and I totally agree with that. I love the tenacity of the offensive lineman. Defensive lineman, he mentioned the versatility of them, and I think that's where Howard Cross, where that comes into play, because here's a guy that can line up at strong side defensive end. Brian Polian mentioned this, but on a passing down can move inside, and I think that speaks to the versatility. Even a guy like Foskey, if they end up getting him in Osafa Mensah, I mean, I think there's versatility there as to which is strong side and which is weak side. So I think that's a real positive. Brian Kelly also talked about the length of the class on the defensive side of the ball and how important that is. And then just I thought it was interesting, the emphasis on the mid-year guys. There will be 10 starting the next semester, which is phenomenal. And Brian Kelly spoke to just the cooperation of the university itself. A few years ago, it would have been impossible for Notre Dame to even consider the possibility of having 10 early entries, and now that's a big part of it. And he mentioned a couple weeks ago that when an early entry comes in, you're not just getting them for the extra half year with the ability of them to get together with Matt Bayless right across the way here from us in the weight room. He feels like that's a full year of development for them.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing. I mean, these guys are going to come so far so quickly. There's guys that I guarantee they think right now are probably a year away from playing. I mean, I know last year Tariq Bracy was a guy that they didn't expect to play a ton this year, and look at him. I mean, he played a whole lot, and he wasn't the biggest, but he arrived, worked hard, packed on some pounds. That's going to happen. I mean, there's guys like Zeke Correll that look like they're ready to play college football. He's probably not there yet, but he's going to come in early, and it's going to be tough to keep that kid on the field. I mean, he's not a starter by any stretch, but he's a guy that is good enough now. I mean, you love his tape just like I do, his senior tape, and he's a guy that's going to Bayless is going to work with that guy, and it's going to be tough to keep him off the field.
Yeah, with Sam Mustipher leaving and Trevor Ruland probably slides over, but Correll's a guy that probably will be on the 2 deep sooner rather than later. So a good day for Notre Dame. No coach has ever said it's been a bad day on signing day, and I get that, but I really think at the top of this class, especially when you talk about the trenches. This is a really strong class for Notre Dame. That's it today from Notre Dame Early Signing Day. Tim Priester with Tom Loy.